It is um,
We'll,
hello and welcome to Identirati Office Hours. I'm your host, Mike Schwartz, founder of Glue, and today we have episode 39, which was originally slotted to be a discussion called Blockchain versus the Right to be Forgotten with Jeffrey Stillman, a security and privacy consultant. And if Jeffrey arrives ever, we'll add him. And the co-host today and now guest is Praveen Kumar Marupaj, co-founder of Blockchain USA, longtime identity guru. Praveen, did I totally botch your name? Maybe
no,
you could give us a
you're
quick intro.
yes, you're perfect, Mike. Yeah. So, thank you, Mike, for inviting and providing this opportunity to discuss on blockchain. So, my name is Praveen Kumar Marupadige. Uh, I mean, if I go with Indian pronunciation, but yeah, in the Western world, yeah, that's Marupadij. Uh, yeah, and I'm here. I'm in the identity and access management space for almost 24 years now, consulting, providing services to the Fortune 500 clients across the nation. And from past couple of years, we have been involved into the blockchain technology, basically providing the solutions for various domain and sectors, whether it's SSI, self-sovereign identity, or verifiable credentials, basically, or in the any blockchain platform, Hyperledger and Everneam and all.
So
Yep.
maybe we should talk about blockchain since it was officially the topic. And I actually tapped you because I saw a blockchain topic and I know you're knowledgeable about blockchain. Um, it's been a while since the fallout of sort of, let's say, blockchains like maybe Glow sort of faded a little bit in the last couple of years. But blockchain hasn't gone away. We still have, Ethereum and Bitcoin, and we still have blockchain ideas. And I still see blockchain funding things happening in the VC world.
Right.
Um, what are your thoughts on? Is there any intersection today of blockchain and identity in general, or do you see any good applications for it?
Absolutely, Mike. I mean, just yesterday itself, BlackRock announced, right? I mean, they are starting with their own blockchain platform with the $10 trillion fund, their the asset, right? So you can see the major financial organizations are already leveraging the blockchain technology. It shows the the strength of blockchain, the principles which is it is providing, right? I mean, the immutability or the decentralization factors, right? But but again, when you come through the identity and access management lens, the blockchain is still long way to go. And we have, I mean, blockchain based enterprise applications, right? I mean, we have a SSI, I mean, verifiable credentials, uh, the protocol, but right now it's not yet 100% matured. So there are a lot of scope and a lot of applications can be built once the blockchain enterprise is expanded or scaled. Because the moment we say blockchain, we are talking about decentralization. It means we are expanding to the not just at the workforce level, but at the common man, the customer level.
Yeah, and a lot of people have exception with that because it might be more centralized. Like the web is really decentralized, right?
Mhm.
Blockchains are kind of decentralized a little bit. Some of them have 20 nodes, some of them have 100 nodes. But Bitcoin, of course, has probably the most nodes, but they're not decentralized like the web is decentralized. So I always take issue with that because I wonder what people mean by decentralization. Um, I think you're thinking about self sovereignty, the idea that I have a credential that's issued to me that I hold in my wallet and
Right.
that I can present. So is that the type of decentralization that you're thinking of, not the actual infrastructure?
Absolutely, Mike. I mean, look at the physical world, right? I mean, we are living as of today. We are in the physical world, and if I give you an analogy, like I mean, driver's license, right? I carry the driver's license, the physical card, and wherever I go, I present it. Yeah, it is issued by the centralized authority. I
Yeah,
understand that, right? But yes, as a user of that, I can go and I can present my credential, right, as a digital, the physical identity card, right? But in the digital world, if I go with my SSI ID, I mean, issued by one again, it's it's a big argument right now going across the world. I mean, at the global level, yeah, we don't have any specific regulations. I mean, Europe has their own the regulations, and when it comes to the Western world, the US has their own credentials. But if you see within the at least at the student level, or I mean, we can see the target audience, right? I mean, this can be varied based on the kind of audience we can implement these solutions, right? I mean, if you look at the student life, right? I mean, they can travel, they can educate, they can study any university in the world, right? I mean, if there is a centralized authority or where they can issue the credential for the student, they can go to any university and they can present their credentials, the digital credentials, right? And then afterwards they can move on to the any organization they are for
that's
the.
the dream, right? Oh wait, I forgot to wear my hat. Hold on, this isn't an identity office hours unless I'm wearing my official. One day I will pass the hat to the next host, so it's important that I wear the hat. But I mean, that's the dream. The dream is that I have a credential, maybe an educational credential, or like a national ID that I could present for healthcare. Some credential that really has value, but
Uh, yeah.
it's decentralized in that it's in my wallet, and but it's still issued by a central authority. And then if we put it on a blockchain, like that decentralization vision doesn't really intersect with a blockchain at all. Where would a blockchain actually intersect with that self-sovereign digital identity infrastructure?
See, Mike. I mean, the um, if you want to really, okay, there's a journey when we are advancing in the digital use hundreds of credentials, right? I mean, I have a bank account, I go to the Chase, I have credential with Chase, I go to any other organization online, I need to Amazon or Netflix, right? So as a common user, as a digital user, that's my major pain at this point, right? So the journey towards the blockchain, the it has to evolve, right? I mean, common you cannot just say overnight, my data, my personal data has to be available across the millions of nodes on the internet, right? I mean, first of all, the threat is your boundary. If you do not define the boundary, like, I mean, Bitcoin, when it comes to the cryptocurrency, the Bitcoin has seen a lot of ups and downs in that aspect, right? But when it comes to the identity, you do want to define the boundary, right? I mean, you cannot expand. Yes, nodes. I mean,
Well, are you talking about from a price perspective? I saw somebody post, I think it was Riley Hughes, who posted like, if you built into your business model how much it costs to write a credential to the blockchain and the underlying value of doing the, what do they call it, the gas fee? If the gas fee is like really volatile, it can make it hard to build a business model around it. Yeah, well, going back to something you said before about how we're seeing blockchain adoption in the financial sector, there it makes sense to me. I love the conversation around CBDCs or central bank digital currencies,
mhm.
CBDCs.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and that makes perfect sense to me. I think Bitcoin certainly makes a lot of sense to me as an asset class in general. Um, and I see use cases for blockchains where banks are using a private blockchain for settlement to avoid more expensive settlement. For example, on the Fed, it might be easier to just do one transaction through the Fed versus every check that clears between a bunch of banks that are doing a lot of business together. So I see those financial applications as
Mhm.
being legitimate. Also, the let's say the dollar token, like an asset class tied to another asset class, like a derivative, but traded with less friction. So I see all those use cases. But when it comes to identity, I wonder what type of information or how this could be useful in identity management applications. Like what identity information or what proof of identity information might you want to write to a blockchain? That's what I don't quite see.
So, well, I mean, yes, right now, in the identity world, you have the pass keys. Again, that is not, I mean, you create a pass keys from the biometric dependency, right?
Yeah,
But when it comes to the self-sovereign identity, the whole idea is I should manage my personal data, right? I mean, my my age or my first name, last name, or address, or anything which defines me a user. Like, I mean, yeah, biometric is there, right?
yeah,
uh, but other than that, demographic data, right? I mean, my address, right, or my age, or my all these other elements, or the attributes which defines me in any business target audience, right? I mean, when they look at me, the personal profile, right, or when they say, what is your personal data, right? The
yeah,
personal data is something you carry all over, right? I mean, what is my education, what is my, where do I live, right? What is my the name, I mean, the name is something you attached from the day you are born, right? And it's the identity, one of the primary attribute, right? The first name and the last name. Yeah, you can change, but again, that is the business, in the business sector, that is the one, the link where you can say who you are, right? To prove that, yes, you have a governing, centralized governing authorities, which, like, birth certificate is issued, or when you are in the education domain, you have the educational certificates are issued. So all these credentials, as you are going through in your journey, right? And if they are attached to your name and secured and stored in the blockchain, right? So, and I can manage that, right? I mean, I have to, as a user, as a owner of that data, I should be able to manage that, right? I mean, there is, if I go in the depend on some third party organizations, and if I'm relying on them, they can submit the fraud or fake certificates, or there's a lot of dependency on the criminal sector, where you don't know who you are and what is your qualification, right, for a right job.
None of that should be going on the blockchain. I think among a lot of identirati, the I want to say the consensus, but I'm about to talk about the company consensus. But I
Mhm.
think among identirati, there's some consensus that we should never really put any identity information on the blockchain. My thinking was really influenced by John Wolpert, formerly an executive at Consensus. And he makes a kind of joke, but it's actually really kind of true, that the blockchain's like a public nudist colony. Like everybody can see everything on it. That's sort of the point of the blockchain. Um, but and his follow-up point to that is that because of that, there's the only thing that you can actually put on the blockchain that's identifiable or would be hashes or proofs. Um, so I can see, like, let's take the decentralized identity. Like maybe there's a way that I could take a verifiable credential. Let's take your educational use case. I graduated from Washington University in St. Louis in 1991. They
Mhm.
issue me some type of verifiable credential.
Mhm.
I want to present it, so I
Right.
need to prove that this is valid somehow, and maybe there's some type of way that I could not publish the certificate, but maybe publish a hash of the certificate onto the blockchain on a certain date, and so that the verifier would have some way to verify the credential on a quote unquote blockchain um, without having to put any identity information out there, any correlatable identity information. Um,
Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, see, Mike, I mean, ownership, right? That is a key point, right? I mean, as long as I have a permission, 100% permission to modify or update or add, right? Um, as long as and the I can manage who can see and who cannot see, right? With the zero knowledge proof, right? So there is a technology, there are concepts where you can implement in your solution, right?
hmm.
And you can manage your, or you can protect your data, personal data, right? I mean, um, so
So if there's some way I could put maybe a cryptographically, um, let's say, encrypted um,
mhm,
piece of data onto the blockchain and selectively allow people to
people,
decrypt it, that still terrifies me because, I mean, actually, NIST just released three cryptographic algorithms that are
quantum,
um, quantum safe, right?
yeah,
And only I think one of them was a hashing algorithm, one of them was a signing algorithm, one of them was an encryption algorithm. It means we only have one quantum safe encrypt. So I guess it's possible, but just the idea of it, I don't know, the idea of it somehow being encrypted but being public and available for it just seems likely that it could be decrypted somehow, or maybe my keys get stolen because most that seems to be the root of most of these problems is lost keys.
hmm,
But it does kind of terrify me. I also find that the promise of zero knowledge proofs, everyone loves to throw around that, yeah, we could do this with zero knowledge proofs,
right,
and then it turns out zero knowledge proofs actually require some pretty hard math, and it's easier to do simple data like over 21. Lots of people have shown, I think, zero knowledge proofs for that, but to actually do zero knowledge proofs for text data for other types of data has proven easier said than done. And I haven't really seen a ton of like actionable like work out of that. um,
yeah,
let's talk about
yeah,
if I could pivot for a second, because I want to come back to actually, Jeff's not here, but I did read up on his idea. So his idea was basically he patented a methodology that enabled you to replace a transaction somehow on a blockchain,
right,
so that you could, I guess, if you wanted to invoke your right to be forgotten, you could somehow, through the use of versioning, replace say in the new version we have maybe a new general hash or something.
right,
Do you
right.
think that that's feasible, or um, I mean,
So
it seems technically feasible, but do you think that have any um, um, developers ever said, "Oh, I would use blockchain if only I could like remove stuff from it"?
I mean, like as we started with blockchain, right? The core principles of blockchain, right? Which is immutability, right? And the decentralized, right? Now, yes, I understand. Once the data is written on the blockchain network, it stays there forever. Um, yes, you have option to update and modify, and but that record stays there forever, right, in the network.
Hmm.
Now, when we are talking about right to be forgotten, like erasing the previous data or which is stored, you are kind of going against the core principles of blockchain then here, right? I mean, okay, then I can easily go back to my relational database, right? I mean, I don't have to worry about the blockchain, the new technology, the new quote, technology stack, right? As a
Yeah.
right. So so now what is that we are gaining and what is that we are losing, right? With this idea, right? I mean,
Right.
have to maintain the core principles, and also we should accommodate the any pain points, right? I mean, like, okay, we clearly understand personal data is mm, should be uh, the owner has to have a rights to decide if my personal data is there lying somewhere on the blockchain.
Yeah,
uh, in the future it should not keep on adding, right? I mean, the basically the blockchain is it stays there forever. What it means, I am like, when new node is or a new created, whenever in the chain, right, new block is created, my data is going with that, right? I mean, uh, so yes, this solution idea seems to be good. I mean, at a certain, you can control, but again, it's like mm, yeah, I'm cutting the thread uh, from the network, from the chain, and building the new block, building the new version of the network. um, then this will like go on for forever. I mean, I don't know the history anymore now, and I am like
yeah.
all
It seems like if you take their word for it that it's technically possible, I'm not a mathematician who can understand like or read 40-page patent applications, but if you take even if you take their proposition at face value, I think what you said before is really right on, spot on, which is that what are you getting and what are you giving up? Um, well, you're getting maybe the right to obfuscate maybe a certain record that you wanted to obfuscate, and but what you're giving up is a little operational complexity. Like now you have to remember all the different versions of that blockchain, and that's going to add into extra operational complexity in some way. So yeah, you can solve that problem, but there definitely is going to be a cost to solving that problem. And
and
I haven't seen that anyone. The main contention is that this idea that developers would use blockchain if only they could make it not immutable. That's the contention that I was going to ask Jeff about, because I'm not actually sure that I see enough applications for blockchain. And I would say the main impediment to blockchain adoption is not its immutability. The main adoption is like no one has shown very many things that it's good for other than financial trading applications or financial ledgers. No
Mhm.
one's, I haven't actually seen a whole lot of great,
I mean,
um,
in the industry has been very much open about the leveraging blockchain technology for various sectors like real estate or transportation or health sector. uh, and they're all very good use cases. I mean, if you look at the, for example, right, I mean, vehicle, right, your department of transportation, right, if I
yeah.
want to buy a used car, right, and I don't know the history of that, as a owner I can ask, if I go with this principle, right, to be forgotten, I can delete my flood profile.
Well, there still has to be governance. So I'm assuming that this is just a technical idea. There still has to be governance. My question would be, okay, sure, you want to know your vehicle's history, but what is the advantage of blockchain over some type of database solution? Why should we spend a bunch of money doing it as a blockchain versus just building a very inexpensive node application where you can look up a VIN number and it gives you back a history? And as far as I can tell, like no one's actually given outside of financial trading, because I want to throw CBDCs and Bitcoin as a financial instrument aside. That has clearly like is big value. Outside of that, especially in the identity space, no one has actually shown that using a blockchain is actually better than just building it with traditional infrastructure. Like the properties of the blockchain, actually the negatives of the blockchain properties
Well,
far outweigh the positives.
I think, Mike, I mean, see, when we are looking at identity space, right, I mean, we have a workforce identity management and the customer identity management, right? I would, I mean, right now the industries are in the transformation, like modernizing to the customer, to support the customer identity and access management.
Yeah,
Uh, right? Like take any Fortune 500 client, right? Every client has a millions or billions of users, right? I mean, customers, right? I mean, taking it
on the CIM side, yes,
on
yes,
the IAM side, right? So
yeah,
yeah, workforce, I understand centralized databases makes sense, but for the customers, right? I mean, like you and me, we are users of Meta or Instagram, or take any Netflix or videos,
sure,
right? I should not be having all these social media platform, or financial clients, or my health applications, or anywhere, right? As a customer, if I can carry my own identity and I can use that across the industry, right?
yeah,
So that's the best use case for the decentralization, where I can leverage the self-sovereign identity (SSI), right, verifiable
yeah.
credentials,
But
and
self-sovereign identity and blockchain aren't necessarily related. Most of the self-sovereign identity schemes don't involve any blockchains at all. If I'm an issuer and I can issue you a credential into a wallet, nothing says I have to write that onto a blockchain.
well, no, I mean, so here's the thing, right? I mean, see, in the self-sovereign identity, okay, it brings two things, right? One is, yes, immutability aspect is needed, but owner the as a owner of the personal data, right? I should be able to modify, or I should have the 100% authority as a owner of the information.
Yeah.
Now, if I do not have access to that blockchain network, right, I mean,
Well,
somebody has,
well, so let me just drill down that. When you say you should have 100% ownership, so if I'm issued a credential by, let's say, the state of California issues me a driver's license,
Mhm.
and I can present this driver's license, if I get pulled over for by a police officer or something, I don't have the right to change it because that information's been vetted by the state. I do have the I should have the control over who I present that to. Maybe I choose not to present it to a liquor store because I don't think they need all of my information, but I don't necessarily have the right to control the data that's in that credential.
no, there are use cases, right, Mike? For example, I relocate to another city, right? Or I have got
Sure.
to update the address, right? Or take an example of, I mean, in the driver's license, that, yeah, we are talking about in the context of driver's license, which has 10 attributes, and a couple of attributes can, the ownership, at least like first name, last name. Like, let's say I got married, or like my last
Yeah.
name changed, right? So uh, so whenever I am updating those attributes, yes, there is a interdependency with authorities, right? So the governance has to be there, and the update has to be agreed upon the relevant authority, right? I mean, if I am
Right.
changing,
I would think you'd get a new credential. You would go to the government,
yeah,
update your last name because you got married, and then get a new credential for your wallet, which you can present. Yeah,
correct. Yeah, at least I don't have to be, I mean, uh, some hacker is not modifying my personal data on behalf of me, right? Or some bad
sure.
guy
We
is not
hope.
changing my personal data, right? So I should be having the ownership where I can go and change the address with 100% confidence, where yes, I know where I am going, and this is my new address, and I am changing that data, right? And I am, so the that authenticity, that authority, right? There are two things, right? Authority is myself, right? I am issued, even though the credential has been issued by the Department of Motor Vehicle, but that belongs to me now. Like when I carry the physical card, like driver's license card, it stays with me in my wallet wherever I go. I'm the owner of that physical card. In the same fashion, when I'm in the digital world, I should be able to own it and manage it. Yes, I understand. I may not be having rights to change any data, I mean, any attribute.
Yeah,
uh, but with just keeping in the regulations, following the, so that can be the that protocol or the those rules can be implemented, right? And the business rules or the industry regulation rules, yes, I have to be law abiding citizen. I mean, I cannot change the, like in the passport, I cannot change the photo
right.
on identity theft, right? So if I have a digital passport, right, and yes, so these are the like trust over IP. I don't know, the
Sure. The
something
organization, trust
organization
over IP. Yeah,
trust over IP, right? They are in the path of the regulating bodies and at the IP address level, right? At the TCP/IP level, right? I mean, all the way to the application and the end user. So yes, the blockchain is a solution when it comes to the immutability and decentralization, so that I don't have to depend on one centralized authority. My data is I mean, any if I go from one company organization to another organization, or if I want to go from Netflix or Amazon, right, or create an account, I don't have to provide my data to all these organizations every time. I mean, like
that
every
that sounds very aspirational. I guess what you're saying though is, so when you say decentralized, maybe the other way to look at this is that, okay, let's take Bitcoin. Nobody controls Bitcoin. One of Jeff's points in his article for today was that one of the great things about Bitcoin is that no one can sue them. So even though you can't change your data, if it gets put on the Bitcoin blockchain, there's no one to sue for if there's a GDPR compliance issue,
right,
because Bitcoin is decentralized in the idea that it's a bunch of interconnected servers that copy this ledger and agree on consensus and then write blocks, and there's no organization. So maybe a lot of these blockchains are not decentralized like that at all. The blockchain is a technology, not a specific vendor or implementation. So you could have a blockchain that's maybe controlled by one company. Um,
so depending on the use case, right, Mike? I mean, you have a hybrid blockchains, you have a public, and then you have a private, right? I mean, what use case are, what is the pain point we are solving, right? If you consider the voting election process, right?
yeah, I was actually going to bring that one up, because
You
we're in the middle of an election and I happen to be thinking about voting.
Yeah, I mean, if you see, I want to make sure if I am voting, my vote stays there and nobody is changing it, right?
Yeah.
And it is
It would be
interlinked,
nice in Venezuela right now to for if yeah, so let's just flesh that idea out. Let's say that I cast my vote, and we want to use a blockchain solution here,
right?
because we don't trust the government to host this database. Um, so we want a decentralized database that's not controlled by anybody, and so we choose to put it on a blockchain. But
Right.
in that case, I would say we would never put in our information, because I don't want to say who I voted for on the blockchain, but
Anonymous,
maybe we take a hash of my verifiable credential
right?
and then we put my vote on the blockchain. So that way you can audit the votes, but you can't tell who the people are. Is that the idea? Some type of application like that where we're able to tally votes or maybe other metadata?
Yes, Mike. I mean, see, first of all, you need to confirm or make sure the authenticity of the voter, right? I mean, is he a I mean, when we are in the United States, do I have the right to vote? Am I an American citizen? Right.
Yeah.
That's a basic, fundamental validation, right? And yes, I do agree. It has to be anonymous when it
Yeah,
comes.
so that in-person identity proofing happens at the election center
Same.
I go and I have to say who I am. Depending upon what state I am in, I might have to present photo ID. But the check of citizenship happens basically at the voting center before they give me my ballot. They should do that in-person verification and then send me on my way to voting. But when I actually vote, I guess I cast my vote, and then a voting system records my vote. I guess it would be the voting system that would end up writing that transaction to the blockchain and
Mhm.
maybe writing some metadata and a hash of some identity proof type of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's
Um,
it's 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 an idea, right?
See, I mean, uh, right. I mean, like right now, I mean, in the voting process, right? I mean, there are so many departments or authorities are involved, right? So the blockchain can bring a solution. I mean, the consensus, right? I mean, the the reason we are bringing blockchain is when I am going through the voting process, it is getting updated across all the authorities or stored or right uh, at the runtime, right? I mean, that is one thing. I mean, no, there is. It's not like okay, I got the vote now, and my team is doing the counting, and then I update to another department, or then there is an audit department they check, right? So there is a transfer of this data or this information in the journey or in the workflow. It's going through and touching so many hands, and then there is a possibility, right? um, can happen anything with the data, right? But if you but if you start from the beginning, the moment I cast my vote, and that data is published or sent across, I mean, yeah, under the governance only, to the right authorities, then we have a proof that okay, nobody can touch that, and no, it shows the time of voting, and it shows the location, and it can capture whatever data you want, right? And then nobody can deny, or I mean, you cannot um, oh,
Yeah. We lost you there for a second, but yeah, I'm actually proposing a undergraduate project for some students to try and build a blockchain solution for voting, because it is an interesting intersection. I see why the properties of a blockchain would be good there. I think the price issue is still a big issue because which blockchain are you actually writing to for something like that? And then I could see the gas fees really being a problem because if you're going to do an election, you probably want to use a fairly a blockchain that has a fair amount of volume already. That is not something that you control, like a single purpose blockchain, because then
mhm.
it wouldn't be decentralized at all. It would just be one more centralized thing. But if you use Bitcoin or Ethereum or I don't know Polygon or something, then then you start to get into some. How do you predict the price, and how does a government who is making budget allocations for a vote know how much budget to allocate? Um, Maybe they run out of gas basically in the middle of the election, so because the price went up.
Yeah, I mean, see, it's not necessary, right? You have to go with one type of blockchain. The solution can be a combination of various types of blockchain, right? I mean, public blockchain to start with, and
Yeah.
uh, and then once you voted, complete the voting process, then your data is going into the private blockchain, right? It should not be visible to the public, right? It should be the data should go and sit. I mean, there has to be interoperability, right? I mean, you cannot be the authorities cannot be again going back to the public blockchain network to see the data, right? I mean, or see the ledger, right? So when you yeah so it has to be designed in network. I mean, the blockchain provides you the all kinds of heterogeneous solutions nowadays. Yes, yeah, a couple of years back, it was a one of the major concern. But now I think advancement in the blockchain, you have a like as I mentioned, zero knowledge proof, right? You can leverage that, and also the cryptography like quantum, right? I mean, you leverage the quantum. I mean, now the future is all, I mean, if the quantum hardware, if you are not quantum safe, right, you're mm, then authenticity of the, like recently I saw the RSA 2048 was also somebody broke it.
Yeah,
And
yeah. The idea that we advertise this as a it'll be secure forever until our encryption is broken. Um,
so,
well,
so the, yeah.
have you actually seen any implementations where of blockchain in the identity space where you said, "Oh man, that actually makes sense, good idea," or are we still waiting for that killer application for blockchain and identity?
I saw, I mean, the passport, the um, the digital passport
Uh
is
huh.
on chain, right? And killer ident, I mean, application.
For what country actually? Do you remember?
No, that was, I think that was a POC from UK,
Okay.
right? Or recently, even the national ID for the Bhutan, right?
Uh huh. That's
And
true. They do use a blockchain. In fact,
they
that's a
blockchain, right?
very advanced project. We had actually we had an episode on that a couple episodes back. Kailan was on,
Yeah, yeah.
um, and that's true. That is actually maybe a good point. I don't know if I agree with that implementation. I think it's great that they did it. Um, um,
So,
the Ironworks, but I'm not sure I 100% agree. It's so forward looking. It's almost like it's a little bit ahead of its time.
right.
And but I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe we should really that I featured it because I think that one really is worth looking at. And I wonder what the connection is to they issue the credential and maybe they also issue a proof on the blockchain. I don't remember exactly what the connection was there.
Or like even in India, right? Um, so there are government applications for the land survey, right? I mean,
Yeah,
so the
I've
records,
heard that one too, like deeds. That's
right?
one of the poster child applications, like land ownership. Yeah,
Land,
people have been fighting over that, since Roman and prehistoric times. So, yeah, those records need to live for a long time. So that maybe is a good idea, I
and also,
guess.
yeah, I also saw somewhere in the South America, I think Venezuela or Argentina, I'm not sure, but they started, I mean, they built this platform where from the moment of the baby is born, they are storing their information like birth certificate and
Uh-huh.
uh, onto the blockchain. That's government official implementation. It's not a proof of concept aspect.
Right.
It's more of government has taken this the project and implemented, and I think it is up and running in the production. I'm not sure, but that is something I read. Where
I'll dig into it. Maybe we can do an episode on that in the future. Well, we're actually coming to the end of our show. It's funny because this is episode number 39. I think we have about let me see, um, we have 50 53 episodes planned or in the works. But so like one thing happens in every episode. Like once I got disconnected and the guests just kept going without me, that was actually really great of them. But this is the first time we had a guest who I guess um, maybe he said his computer crashed and maybe he didn't recover the calendar. Um, but I'm glad we could at least have a conversation about this. Next
yeah,
Tuesday, we have an episode with two authorization companies, and about basically you get the JWT. Now what? So I want to encourage our audience to join. And Praveen, before we break, do you have any last thoughts on blockchain or anything identity, or you even want to tell us more about your company and what you do before we break?
Yeah, yeah. First of all, thank you very much, Mike. I mean, yes, we kind of pivoted into the topic of, yeah, but I mean, we stayed on the topic, the blockchain, and my company, Blockchain USA, does provide the solutions in various use cases. I mean, various sectors, various industries. We are a company, whether it's a real estate or a health sector or education or any domain. So I come with a identity and access management background for 20 plus years, implemented for the Fortune 500 customers, the client, and moving towards the focusing towards the SSI area. So that's the more we are looking into it.
Well, and we met a bunch of years back. I think on your LinkedIn, you list Transmit. I think we met. That's where we met, on the Transmit project. But
Yeah.
yeah, well, thank you for being a good sport and just going along without an official guest. So I really appreciate that, Praveen. And these are informal office hours, so we successfully, I think, completed our mission of having a discussion about identity. Um, and it did feel like office hours. So thank you very much. Thank you, audience. And